Well, good morning, everyone, and happy back to school week. And we are so glad to be back in our classrooms with our students. Today, though, we're all here to talk about individuals who may not be going back to school because of government policy and funding changes for adults who have a high school diploma but are looking to upgrade their skills or start a new career training program. And that is so unfortunate. It's just not right. We call these learners graduated adults. Last December, BC's Ministries of Education and Advanced Education announced a new funding scheme for adult education in our public schools and post-secondary institutions. The changes meant that BC school districts lost $9 million in specific funding to provide graduated adults with tuition-free high school courses. Post-secondary institutions also saw $6.9 million in their base funding shift to a new grants program that is only accessible to very low-income people. The result is graduated adults now have to pay hundreds of dollars for high school courses. Today, I'm here with several guests who will talk about the impact of this policy and funding change. They are George Davison, newly elected president of the Federation of Post-Secondary Educators; Karen Short, president of the Vancouver Community College Faculty Association; and Chris Murphy, president of the Adult Educators Sublocal within the Vancouver Elementary School Teachers Association. And we're also joined by students Eric Lee and Joan Casilla. Our hope today is to let government know that their policy change is already having a negative impact on education and adult learners. In Surrey, for example, the school district has canceled all graduated adult courses. These adult education cuts are taking opportunities away from those who need it the most: immigrants, Aboriginal members of our community, and those who are struggling to find good jobs to support their families. The money cut by government is actually fairly small, but the impact is huge. Today, we are calling on the government to restore the funding to adult education and keep the doors open to those people trying to further their careers, upgrade their skills, and find good family-supporting jobs. You know, this government brought in a $200 million tax cut for BC's richest few this year. And this past summer, they discovered that they actually have a $1.6 billion surplus. They can afford reinvesting the funding stripped from adults who are looking to upgrade their skills. And now I will turn over the mic to George Davison.
Thanks, Jim, and good morning, everyone. As educators, our greatest concern is our students, how we can help them to grow and thrive, both in classes and beyond. When we see students struggling, we try to help. And when the students we've worked so closely with don't come back to class, we worry about what might have happened to them. For many adults, access to basic education is the building block for further education and career opportunities. Some of those students enter adult education programs to complete their dogwood certificate, some to upgrade a few courses, to get into a career or trades program. In all cases, adult education program opens doors for students that might otherwise remain closed to them. What we're seeing this fall in BC's post-secondary institutions is that some of the students who most need access to these programs aren't coming back to class. Instead of free tuition, there are now barriers. $1,600 per term is a barrier. The extra steps required to access adult upgrading grants are a barrier, an unnecessary layer of administration and red tape. The income threshold for this grant is a barrier. It's $11.37 an hour, or $23,700 per year. If you make $11.40 an hour, you don't qualify. For adult learners trying to lift themselves out of poverty, tuition-free adult education was an important part of their path to better opportunities. And for government, It was an affordable way to open doors for those students. When the government announced last December that up to $1,600 tuition fees could now be charged per term for adult basic education, they said it would help to make the programs more sustainable. The model was based on 5 courses at $320 per course. But the reality is that adult basic education programs were never like university transfer courses. They had lower class sizes and class time was longer. Now, some institutions are designing programs to charge the maximum amount, as much as $800 per course. The result is that students are being hurt, enrollments are down, instructors are losing their jobs, and cash-strapped institutions across BC are in an even worse position than they were before. I'd like to turn the mic over to the president of the Vancouver College Faculty Association, Karen Short, to talk about how students and faculty are being affected at VCC.
Thank you, George, and hello, everyone. Vancouver Community College is the largest provider of adult basic education programs in the province. We serve thousands of adult learners every year right here in this community. And because VCC is the largest, VCC is feeling the effects of this government policy change the most profoundly and immediately. Because of the government cuts to the college's base funding, VCC began charging the maximum tuition of $1,600 per semester on April 1st of 2015. And our enrollment began to drop immediately. Our basic education student enrollment numbers are down 50%. What we are talking about is basic reading, writing, and math skills, up to about a grade 8 or 9 level. That means 50% fewer adults will have the opportunity to obtain basic literacy and numeracy skills. So try to imagine not being able to read the instructions on a prescription label, or not being able to help your child in grade 2 with adding and subtracting, or not being able to go to the grocery store and understand the cost of groceries and how much you're spending because you don't understand basic math. This is what adult basic education programs provide. Enrollment in our college and career access programs is also down by about 20 to 30%. These are courses in biology, math, English, writing skills. These are courses that adults need to re-enter the job force. Many have been laid off and now need to retrain, but they graduated more than 5 years ago. They don't have the income to pay this amount of money. Or perhaps they're courses that young adults that dropped out of high school now need to get on a career track. We will lose all of these students, our future workforce, if the government continues to put up barriers in adult basic education. To the Liberal government, to Premier Clark, to Minister Wilkinson, I say this: you had it right the first time. In 2007, when you brought in tuition-free adult basic education, you did a good thing. You can fix it. You can bring that back, and you can bring it back immediately. The cost to our economy and to our society is far greater than any perceived savings by charging tuition to adult learners. And we will continue to pay this as a society for generations to come. Thank you. I'd like to turn the mic over now to Eric Lee. Eric is a student in one of our adult basic education programs. Eric?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Karen. I believe, from what I recall, now don't quote me exactly on this, but Maya Angelou said, "From dust I shall rise." Now, I just want to share what adult basic education means to me. Adult basic education allowed me to better develop myself in fundamentals needed for higher education. I am a student at Laurentian at the Sudbury and also many other prestigious universities. I advanced myself academically and personally through accessing adult basic education programs at VCC. I must say, better developed individuals create better communities. Better communities create a better population. And better populations create, well, you do the math. If you cannot do the math, then you will understand how important it is for fundamental ABE access. ABE programs, adult basic education, must be funded to provide access and growth to all individuals. Please add your voice. It matters. Correct the funding. Reinstate open access to fundamental academics. Education is for everyone. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Joan Casilla. I'm a student at VCC, and I'm very nervous. I don't normally stand up and talk in front of people or cameras, so please forgive me for that. What adult basic education means to me, what these cuts mean to me. When I was in high school in grade 12, I got very sick. And I spent years in a lot of pain. Thanks. Okay. And I wasn't able to study or work. And when I recovered, there wasn't much that was available for me to find for rehabilitation and reintegration. I had to do a lot of it on my own, except for this schooling. VCC's program was so low barrier. I walked in, I learned about it, walked in the same day, and was in a course. And even though I had to rally my friends, read books, read on the internet how to recover from what I dealt with, how to learn study skills, how to do everything I needed to do, I always had the people at VCC helping me. I can't remember a single time when I or any other student I ever saw wasn't welcomed immediately by the teachers. Absolute safety. The instructors at VCC have a way of wicking away shame and guilt about your situation, about academic, anything about life, and making me and the other students feel so welcomed. We're there because we have to do these things to go on in life, and our instructors are always aware of that. I've never seen them once not take into account how important this step in any of us as students' journey through life it is. They're very aware and they're very kind. There's no negativity. There's always gratitude when we're there, and gratitude from us. My mother was a teacher. She worked for the Ministry of Education and Ministry of ABED. I know how important it is for teachers to work so hard. I've seen them do it in classes, and my mom doing it when I was a kid. And for some of us, getting it done in a quick time frame isn't possible. For me, it wasn't possible. It takes longer, and it takes kindness and caring from these instructors, from these programs. And I'm doing more and better than I would do in any other situation. I'm very grateful for them, and I would like to continue. I would like to complete the education I need so that I can go on to the next step that I have to take. And I would like other students to have that opportunity. It's very important for us as citizens to be able to participate in our country, in the workforce, and with each other. Thank you.
Good morning. Just want to say I'm very pleased that Eric brought up Maya Angelou as an English teacher. Always like to hear students quote poetry. Maya Angelou also said that courage is the most important of all the virtues, and I just do want to thank John and Eric for having the courage to get up here today and speak on behalf of us and the students here that are all being affected by these cuts. This government has essentially decimated adult education in this province and in Vancouver. In Vancouver alone, we had 6 robust learning centers, very successful learning centers, lots of growth. But since this government has been in power, we're now down to 2 and 1 small learning center in the downtown east. This is really in large part due to the fact that this government broke their promise in 2008 when they instigated the education guarantee, which was supposed to make education free, tuition free for all graduated adults. That guarantee is really more like a limited warranty, I guess now. I have a better one on my toaster. It's not worth very much. This government's word apparently is not worth very much either. These cuts really do affect everyone, though. It's not just low-income earners. It's not just immigrants. It's really everyone. Students who just graduated from high school who, for many different reasons, may have not attained the highest mark. We know it's very competitive getting into post-secondary institutions, and oftentimes students graduate from high school but need to upgrade their mark a little bit to get into the programs that they want to get into. So now those are going to cost them $550 a course. So it really affects everybody again. So Christy Clark and the former Minister of Education, Fassbender, they really did though let our most vulnerable population down, really forcing them to defer their modest dreams of attaining a better life, a chance to get a well-paying job, a chance to give their children a better future, a chance to end really a cruel cycle of poverty, and I would call it undereducation. I teach English, senior English, and when the government announced that they would be charging $550 per course, my students were coming to me. They were upset. They were anxious. They don't know what they're going to do. Many of them cannot afford $550 per course. If you take 2 courses, that's $1,100. I'm not a math teacher, but I figured that out. And it's absolutely prohibitive for most of our students. Again, it's going to prevent them from attaining these goals. It's really the death of a lot of people's futures. Adult ed graduation is one of the highlights of our year, and it's a chance where we get to hear all the stories of the graduates and what they've gone through and all their trials and tribulations and what they've overcome to get to that moment. And I think one of the saddest things for me is to know that a lot of those stories aren't going to be told. Because they're not going to have a chance to get there. It's really just shameful. It's shameful that this government has had no problem spending billions of dollars on things like the Olympics, on things like new roofs for stadiums, but they can't find the money to really, we're not talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about a few $1 million to properly fund education in this province and for people who desperately need it. I know they have the money. As Jim was saying, there's a $1.6 billion surplus. They can find this money in the cushions of their liberal couches. It's not a lot of money. We're not asking for a lot. And I think, what's more egregious is that they can't seem to see that there's this incredible return on their investment. A tuition-free education means students can attain better-paying jobs, lifting them from unemployment. It's a good thing. I think I need to explain it slowly for Christy Clark. More jobs means more tax-paying citizens who don't need government assistance. It means a healthier economy. And when you make money, you spend it on goods and services. So I think we need to elect a government that understands that basic education should be a right, that it should be for everyone all the time, no matter if you're 8 or 80, and that lifelong learning is a good thing. I'm just going to end with a quote. A wise man once said that observe carefully how education and the arts of civilization bring honor, prosperity, independence, and freedom to a government and its people. And I think we really need to heed those words. I think we need to take them very seriously. And I think we need to uphold them, because this government does not want a prosperous, independent, and free society. I think what they want is to keep the richest 1% in the province ensconced in this hegemonic place. So I think we need to really understand that. And I think, as Karen said, we need to call on this government to fix this. It can be fixed. They need to fix it. And we need to make this better. Thank you.
So at this time, we'll take a few questions of myself or our guests, and then I encourage you after that to talk to everyone individually about the situations that they've talked and described. So, any questions?
Do you have figures of how many people are studying what you call the basic learning, and how many are taking some courses to either get a better job or go to college or something like that? There seems to be two groups here.
I'll maybe ask George or Karen or even Chris to see if there are any figures out right now.
Thank you. We can say in the thousands this year that we are down. And we offer a number of upgrading courses for adults at Vancouver Community College, and every single one of those programs is down between 50% and 20 to 30% depending. So last year we lost 3,000 or 4,000 students when ESL became tuition bearing. This year we're seeing an absolute repeat of that with a drop in our student numbers. We currently have 43 instructors on layoff notice, and so that would indicate, if you're looking at 20 to 25 students per class, that's a large number. Thank you.
And just to clarify too, I mean, I'm adult ed, so we're high school, but a lot of our students feed into the colleges. So when our numbers go down, it affects the colleges as well. So, again, having lost 3 schools and a lot of programs, we've also lost, there's potentially thousands of students that we've lost as well. But it's all interconnected.
And this is one of the impacts that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of months. And, when we get more succinct numbers, we'll also be raising, again, this issue with government, which we continually raise, but we'll able to also raise it with the actual impact. Because when we asked government, when they made these cuts, so do you know what the impact was going to be? They had no idea. But as Karen and Chris have outlined, just in terms of Vancouver here, we know that the impact is huge.
Isn't there a kind of a paradox, or kind of, I don't know, between the fact that the government is ready to spend some money to receive some refugees, and when they're here and they speak only Syrian or God knows what, no, sorry, you have to spend money to learn to speak English. Isn't there kind of a paradox there?
We welcome government spending money in terms of supporting refugees coming into British Columbia, into Canada, because we think that's important, and it's about who we are as citizen, as a country. But also, we also know that we have citizens here who, education is so important. And the money needs to be spent in both areas. It's not one or the other. It's both.
I don't want to say that having refugees is a bad thing, quite the contrary, but once they are here, those people will have to learn the language here. So if we receive them but don't give them a chance to integrate minimally into society, is there a paradox?
Yes, there is a paradox. And so, when we welcome them in and we want them in, then we have to ensure that they have the facilities, the education to be able to go to school and learn the language and upgrade their skills too. Absolutely.
I have two questions.
Tracy.
What would be the cost of restoring tuition-free adult basic education?
Well, we know that for K to 12, we were talking $9 million. And in the post-secondary, we're talking $6.9 million. So, we're talking about a little more than $15 to $16 million. It's little cost, but the impact is huge. And, the impact could be huge if they reverse that trend and put the money back.
Right. Okay. And then I was wondering if John and Eric might say something about their goals, like what they were trying to get out of the education, why they were upgrading.
Absolutely. Would like to go try that. Eric?
I returned to school. I took financial management at BCIT. I specialized in nonprofit organization for accounting. So I was doing accounting, and then when 2009, the economy took a dip, and when people had lost their jobs, lost money, they decided that they were not able to donate to nonprofit organizations, which in turn did not need an accountant because there was no money to be counted. So I spent about a year on my own just doing some soul searching. And I found it difficult at first to get myself back into school because it seemed like, why would I downgrade and go through grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, and do all the upgrading again. But I took that because I knew that it would open doors. It would open doors to not only opportunities, but for me to learn about myself. And through that, I learned that I'm actually have a gift for writing. I have a gift for communicating, and that I'm able to do a lot more than I would have if I stayed in the same finance sector in a cubicle. Does that answer your question?
Sure. So have you finished your upgrading?
Yes.
So what are you doing now?
Right now, I do several things. I have an organization which recovers invasive species from conservation and place them and try to add economical, educational, and social value through containment. I work with several other organizations, attended a Vancouver Board of Trade function yesterday. A lot of volunteer work. I mean, volunteering, it feeds the soul. So everything, it's not, there's a lot of things that are surrounding. It's not always about numbers. It's spirit that creates these numbers, and it's volunteering, it's access to education, it's access to learning ourselves and learning how much we can give. Because sometimes it's like I would not know how much I was able to offer until I went back to basic education and I found my roots again.
Okay, thank you.
Howdy. Well, I want to go into counseling. I found a program, there's a basic intro at VCC that gives a certificate that lets me get to work, which allows me to earn enough money to go on to post-secondary and get those things done. Currently, I volunteer with Vancouver Coastal Health, and I facilitate a couple of different meetings where we do cognitive behavioral therapy with folks in the community. I work with folks struggling with addictions in the downtown east side. I work with people who struggle with anxiety and depression. And I have another group where we work with the families and friends whose loved ones are afflicted by these things. And it's all cognitive behavioral therapy. It's all empathy and being with them. And I would like to do some more of that.
And what stage are you at in your education?
Yeah, that's pretty basic. I'm trying to get through the ABE with the team.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
So, thank you, and I in particular want to thank Eric and John for, as Chris said, having the courage here to tell some of their story and share what's going on in their lives right now, because that's why we're all here today and having this news conference. And to Chris and Karen and George, thank you very much, and I encourage you to take the time and talk individually. So thanks for coming.